Social Security is not meant to be your entire retirement plan. It's one piece of the system. Most people think of Social Security as income, a check that shows up every month, something that helps cover the bills once you stop working. And that way of thinking can make sense, but it's an incomplete way of understanding because Social Security is not just another income stream. It's one of the core pieces of a retirement income system, and it's the foundation everything else is built on. And how you position that piece can change how much stress gets placed on everything else in your plan: your portfolio, your taxes, your withdrawal strategy, your survivor income, and your ability to stay retired when markets are not cooperating with what you would like. This is why Social Security should not be treated as a simple claiming age decision, because Social Security is not just another income stream. It's the foundation of a whole retirement income system that all of your other layers are going to be built on. And how you position that foundation affects everything that's going to be built on top of it. This is where retirement planning becomes different from simply knowing all the rules. Because the question isn't going to be for you, when should I claim Social Security? It's going to be, how does it interact with everything else going on in your financial life? And how can that have consequences years down the road, not just now? For high income individuals, families, and business owners, Social Security may not represent the majority of your retirement income, but that doesn't mean it's going to be insignificant for you. A smaller guaranteed income stream can still drastically change the amount of risk your market portfolio is going to need to absorb over the course of decades. So, up to this point in the series, we've focused on education, the rules, claiming strategies, spousal benefits, survivor benefits, taxes, all these different pieces that have to go together. But knowing the rules is really only the first step, because the biggest planning opportunities come from understanding how all these rules will actually work together, not just with Social Security, but with your entire game plan. So starting with this video, this series is now shifting. We're moving from education into systems to cover how Social Security actually fits in a coordinated retirement plan, because two households can have the same age, income needs, benefit size, portfolio size, and still experience completely different retirements based on the steps you took to get to that point. And that difference is usually not just one individual decision, it's how all those decisions work together. So I'm Jacob Euler, co-owner of Grand Summit Wealth Management. I work with high-income individuals, families, and business owners, and I've helped over 100 clients transition to retirement by coordinating decisions like Social Security, portfolio income, taxes, and long-term planning. This channel is called 1% Wealth Secrets because at higher levels of wealth, outcomes are rarely determined by one decision. They're determined by how these decisions interact. All right, let's get into it. Every retirement income plan has layers. Some income is guaranteed, some is dependent on market returns, some is adjusted for inflation, some is not. Social Security is unique because it provides several characteristics that are difficult to replicate from one income source. It's guaranteed for life, it receives inflation adjustments, and it continues for you regardless of what the market's doing. And that's why it often acts as an anchor of a retirement income system, even for households that have significant assets. It's a foundation that all the other layers sit above. So brokerage accounts, IRAs or Roth IRAs, real estate income coming in, business income coming in, all of those sit on top of that foundation of that guaranteed Social Security benefit. And that's where the coordination of all those income streams coming together matters, because every dollar your portfolio has to provide early in retirement before you start drawing Social Security benefits is another dollar exposed to market timing risk. So I know that can sound like a lot of non-specifics. So let's take a look at an example similar to households that I see all the time. They need to take about $180,000 a year in income to live out all their retirement goals, not just survive, but be able to thrive and achieve all those things that they work so hard for over the years. They've managed to accumulate a $3.5 million portfolio, and at full retirement age, their combined Social Security benefit will be about $65,000. So if they start collecting Social Security at full retirement age, the portfolio needs to cover the remaining $115,000. which is about 3.3% of their portfolio before taxes and other planning considerations. But if that same household retires early, then the spending need doesn't disappear. Instead, what their portfolio's being asked to cover goes up to the full 180,000 amount, which is now over 5% of their portfolio yearly before any taxes are considered. And that's the part many people miss. When to collect Social Security is not just a decision about when to start getting a check, it's a decision about how much portfolio risk you want to take on in the meantime. And that may be perfectly reasonable for some households, but it creates a very specific risk that needs to be understood called sequence of return risk. And what that means is a risk of you having negative returns in your portfolio right when you start to retire, at the same time you're now beginning to take out withdrawals from that portfolio. If you look at a 30-year time horizon, your average may look fine over time, but the order of those returns can change the outcome of your retirement dramatically. And here's why. When you're still working and adding money to your portfolio, a market decline may be uncomfortable, but you're usually not selling assets to fund your lifestyle at that point. But in retirement, of course, that all changes. Now you're dependent on that portfolio to provide you income every month. It's replacing your paycheck. So if the market drops early in retirement and you also have to withdraw a larger amount because Social Security benefits haven't started yet, you're selling from a portfolio that's already under pressure. And that combination can be dangerous. Not just because the market went down, markets go down, they're cyclical, but the issue is that the withdrawals taken during a downturn can reduce the amount of assets left to recover. Since you already sold those assets, they don't have the ability to recover from the paper loss. It's now a real loss. So let's go back to that household example to drive the point home why that matters. Let's say if right when they were ready to retire, there was a 20% market crash, so their $3.5 million portfolio is now 2.8. If they start collecting Social Security at full retirement age, that $65,000 amount, now that remaining 115 is up to 4.1% of their portfolio versus 3.3 in the earlier example. But if they decide to retire early and they haven't started collecting Social Security yet, that full 180,000 they now have to withdraw is up to 6.4% of their portfolio. And that 6.4% is much higher than the rule of thumb, the 4% rule, which is supposed to be how much money you can safely withdraw on a yearly basis from your portfolio without worrying about running out of money as you get older. And that's a very different level of stress, right? Same household, same spending need, same original portfolio value. But it's a very different burden on your portfolio depending on factors you can't control, which is what was the market doing in those initial couple years right when you retired. And that's why Social Security can't be analyzed only by asking what claiming age provides the largest benefit, because the larger future check may come at the cost of higher portfolio withdrawals today. And if those withdrawals happen in a bad market sequence, your long-term risk of running out of money goes up significantly. Now, that doesn't mean delaying Social Security is always wrong. Delaying can be a very strong strategy, especially for healthy individuals, married couples planning around survivor benefits, or households that want more guaranteed income later in life. But the point is that delay is not free. It changes who carries the load. Early in retirement, the portfolio carries more weight. Later in retirement, Social Security may carry more weight. The trade-off has to be coordinated, though. It can't just be guessed. It needs to be planned properly. And that's why I don't like looking at Social Security in isolation, because claiming decisions affect your portfolio, they affect taxes, they affect Social Security taxation, they affect survivor income, all these different factors. And of course, the longevity, because none of us know how long we're going to live for. And that's the shift I want you to understand. Social Security really isn't a check, it's a planning lever. When you pull that lever early, you may reduce pressure on your portfolio today, but you potentially accept a smaller lifetime benefit. When you pull that lever later, you may increase guaranteed income later, but you ask the portfolio to carry more weight earlier. So when people ask, what is the best age to claim Social Security? The honest answer is, it depends on the system it's built around. Not because I want to give a cop out with a vague answer, but because it's the more accurate answer. It depends. It needs to be coordinated with all those other factors like your portfolio withdrawals, tax strategy, survivor planning, longevity expectations, and the level of income you reliably want in retirement. And that's the bigger picture. So if you're approaching retirement and you've looked at Social Security benefits and portfolio withdrawals as standalone and isolated decisions, that may be a sign that the decision deserves a broader review for you. If you want help evaluating how all those factors fit together in your retirement strategy, you can schedule an optional financial consultation using the link below. There's no obligation, it's simply a conversation to determine whether coordination would add value to your situation. So in the next video, we're going to build on this sequence of return risk and talk about longevity risk, why averages can be misleading, why retirement often lasts longer than people expect, and why Social Security may be one of the most misunderstood longevity tools of your entire financial plan. So thanks for sticking to the end. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you for that one coming soon.